Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. It's Thanksgiving week. I hope you guys are feeling thankful. If you're not, you better get there. Okay, I need you guys with some gratitude. All right. Breaking news today on this incredibly beautiful Texas Tuesday afternoon. Mark Cuban has unfollowed Elon Musk on X. Oh, that is a hard-hitting story with huge implications for all of us. We will get into that momentarily. On a lesser note, we'll discuss Trump's tariffs on other countries on their imports, and we will talk about the minor things that may or may not affect us with. And then, of course, we are once again going to continue to hammer down on the fact that the legacy media is dead. What that means for people like you and me. Oh my gosh, how will we ever survive without the legacy media? What will we do without 24/7 talking heads coming up with stories just to entertain us and to instill us with deep-seated fear? Before we get into it, I want to remind you guys that I am all over the country. I'm going to be in Spring, Texas at Do-Si-Do. That is the one of the best and most historic and incredible music listening halls in the country. And it's right here. It's like 7 minutes from my home. We call that the birthday show. December 7th, I'm going to be over there. And then don't forget, I'm going to be in Wesley Chapel, Florida. Once again, Side Splitters Comedy Club, going to be there the second weekend of December. And then over in St. Cloud, Florida. And then we're doing New Year's Eve, Tyler, Texas. So get your tickets, watchchad.com for all the fun stuff is. And come check us out. I want you guys to hit that like button, smack that sucker, just poke it, pow, and then subscribe on Rumble or YouTube. Wherever you're not subscribed, go subscribe there. And then, super important, I need you to do this, and it doesn't cost you a thing, unlike Trump's tariffs on Canada and Mexico. I want you to go to where podcasts are offered. That's the place where you listen to it. You don't get to see my ugly mug. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, those kind of deals. Go over there. And I want you to find my show, and I want you to scroll up through the episodes to where it says you can leave a review. And I want you to leave 5 stars. That rating is what we deserve. And then I want you to leave a review. I want you to say something about me. Tell me how important it is that Mark Cuban has left and blocked. He hasn't left, but he's blocked Elon Musk. That's hard-hitting news. We have so much to get into today. But first, let's talk about this. Our friends over at United Patriot Supply, I don't know if you guys have spent a lot of time out there trying to find maybe hard-to-find firearms or ammunition or just some stuff. It could be the end of the world as we know it. We don't know when the apocalypse is going to – maybe we're watching it unfold right now, but you want to be prepared. Now, we've talked about having preparation food. We've talked about having preparation medical. But I want to make sure that you have access to the largest selection of firearms, ammunition, and all the accessories available online. You get that at my friends at UnitedPatriotSupply.com. It's going to be hard to find stuff. They got it. If they don't have it, they can get it for you. United Patriot Supply, they got an incredible stock of stuff. They're the same people who own United Patriot Coins, so they've got that silver incentive program. You buy a firearm, you get free silver with your order. You get a free ounce of silver for every $500 spent on guns, up to 5 free ounces for a firearm purchase of, say, $2,500 or more. So that is an offer combined promotion between United Patriot Supply, United Patriot Coin. It's very simple. You don't even need a promo code. Just go over to UnitedPatriotSupply.com. Dadgummit, do some shopping, man. Consumer confidence is coming back because that's what we're about. As President Donald Trump heads back to the White House, it's going to be fantastic, I tell you. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be fantastic. I'll tell you what else is fantastic. America's favorite producer, his name is Royce Chamberlain. Bring him onto the show. He'll bring himself onto the show. There he is. What's up, baby?
I click the buttons, man. I bring myself on.
So that's right, baby. You're a button pusher, man. You know what? I've heard that people like button pushers. You know which button to push. You know what I want everyone to do? I want everybody to go over to X. X is the place to be. Everybody said, I'm not getting over there. You guys are missing out. X is the spot now. That's no pun intended. X is the spot now. And at Royce Chamberlain, you have a great X account. We just got to bump them followers up. We got to pump those things up.
Yes. Yes, we do. I try to stay as active as possible. And you know what? If you're hearing legacy media say, don't go to X, X is bad, that's exactly why you should go there, because that's
That's
where the real
right.
news is. And people like Chad, and I'm trying myself, and Graham Allen, we're sharing the real news on there. And we want you guys to see it first. So go check us out on X.
Yeah,
Royce
and it's
Chamberlain.
also a place where you can get my daily prayers. We're on
That's right.
day 51 today. Day 51. Haven't missed a day. So consecutively. And but go follow Royce Chamberlain at Royce Chamberlain. Very simple. Follow me too at Watch Chad. And another guy you need to be following is the guy I'm about to bring on here. He is a guest of the show before. I'm telling you, he is my leading expert on the Roman Empire, and I can't wait to get his takes today on the episode. Welcome to the show, my good friend, Mr. Jeremy Ryan Slate. Come on, Jeremy.
Hey
There
guys,
he is.
thanks for having me.
There he is. I love it.
I left out, so I made sure I went and followed Royce, so I'm not left out.
Thank you. Thank you so much. See, you don't want to be left out. You got to give a follow. You got to give a follow.
I'm sitting here thinking, and you know what I just found out? I just realized yesterday, I think late last night, that Jeremy, you and I weren't friends on Facebook. So,
But here's what's funny though. So I saw a friend request me this morning, which I accepted, but like there's a lot of Chad Prather like doppelgangers out there. So I've been getting Chad Prather requests like every day for like the last 6 months, and I'm always like, oh, another one. And this morning I'm like, oh, it's real. Okay.
That's the real one. You came up as a person that I might know. You were a suggested person.
It's
Jeremy,
creepy to me, by the way, when that happens when I'm in the room with
Yeah.
somebody and we have no mutual friends, and I'm like, oh, they're definitely scanning my phone.
I have found that to be true, and this is something to be aware of. I have found that to be true, that if I cross paths with somebody, like I just met somebody, say they came to a show and maybe we hung out for a little while, we had a conversation, and then that night in the hotel room, it suggests them as a person you may know, because our phones, they met each other. They somewhere in the
They're listening.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. It picked up on the fact that person had been in my presence. That is creepy. That is weird. That is the world we're living in. And I kind of want to be a little more isolationist as I get older. I'm starting to think of how valuable like having a little Faraday case for your phone might be, to be able to stick it in the little ghost pouch so nobody can, triangulate your phone. So anyway, Jeremy, it's good to have you back, brother. I appreciate your content so much. If you guys aren't following Jeremy, you might be one of the biggest spiller and spitter of facts of anybody that I've ever seen.
Wow.
Your ability to roll off names, dates, and all the stuff connected with the Roman Empire. And you have never been more relevant than in recent days, brother. This has been a boost, I'm assuming, for your viewership and the people that, because you're every time I turn around, there's another reel, and I'm like, how many people were in charge of the Roman Empire? Jeremy knew them all. Had them all.
Hey, I'm kind of like the Rain Man of Rome, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I could tell you the number of toothpicks that are on the floor, but anyway.
It's better than being the Rain Man of East Georgia, and I was that. So I can tell you. Let's jump into a couple of these stories before we talk a little bit about the legacy media. Toss that first one up there, Royce. I want to take a look at this thing. Donald Trump has said he's going to impose a 25% tariff on all goods from Mexico and Canada, and an additional 10% tariff on Chinese goods. Now, every time I read one of Trump's tweets, I really want to do it in Trump voice, but I'm not going to do it. But the reason he's doing it is he's trying to make sure that these people stay accountable, as he points out, because people are losing their mind over this. He said, we got crime, we got drugs, we got human trafficking, all these things that are happening coming up from the Mexican open border. And then he wants to keep Canada accountable as well. We are watching an invasion that is happening, and people are losing their minds over this. Now, I've seen a number of, who was it, Chris Mowry, these little 22-year-old talking heads on X or wherever they are, talking about most conservatives don't even know what a tariff is. All right, Jeremy, something's got to happen with this economy, right? Something's got to take place. As a Roman Empire expert, this isolation mindset of saying, hey, you want to do business with our country, there's gonna cost you something to do that because we're kind of special here. We're going to protect our borders. We're going to be special, and it's a privilege to be able to do stuff with America. Is this reminiscent? Is this type of action kind of reminiscent of anything that you know of?
No, in some ways it's kind of the opposite, frankly, but you have to look at, towards the end, the Western Roman Empire didn't really know what they were doing. They were just trying to save what was left of things. And even in 212, Caracalla gives 30 million people citizenship overnight so he could tax their inheritance because it was kind of one of the few things he had left. The thing you have to consider, though, is a lack of a strong currency is what kills a country or an empire or anything else. And our currency is rapidly losing power. And the thing you have to look at as well is, and I've talked about this over the last year, if you're going to get a strong currency back here in America, you also have to fix the American economy. Because if we're not doing business in dollars here and we don't have something strong to go off of, when the petrodollar eventually collapses, because it will collapse at some point in time, or they'll switch to BRICS, which means then overnight our dollar is based on almost nothing. We have to fix the American economy first, which means making sure things are not only purchased here, but also made here. And you have to make it, as sad as it is, you have to make it more expensive for American businesses to leave America and to actually do business here, because you're going to have better jobs in America. You're going to have a better quality to our economy. And then you can start to worry about what's behind our dollar. Because if the petrodollar gets switched without us doing something about the American economy, well, you're looking at Weimar Republic type stuff.
Yeah. Royce, I'm sick to death of these people who are basically, I mean, these Democrats, man, the idea of loving slavery, it's never too far from the surface with them. So every one of them has said, if you start deporting people, nobody's going to, pick your avocados. Nobody's going to mow your grass. Nobody's going to paint your house. There's going to be nobody to do manual labor, fix your roads.
I did those things in high school. I don't know about you, man.
I did them. I did every single one of them. You know why, Jeremy? I do what I do today, why I talk for a living? Because I did that stuff.
Yes.
And I don't want to do that stuff. My brother and his company, they still go out and lay bricks. I don't want to do that in 110-degree weather, But I hear these people who are saying, oh, everything's going to get more expensive. It's going to get more expensive. I thought you guys were wanting to boost the economy. Here's the thing. It's one thing if things get more expensive and you get more wealthy. What we were experiencing in the Biden administration is things were getting more expensive and people were getting more impoverished. People are losing their mind. They're melting down, and I have some takes on that. But, Royce, what's your opinion on these tariffs as far as people's reaction to them, specifically the comments that they're making on social media?
Well, I see them for what they are. It's a scare tactic, right? To try and stop these other countries from abusing America, which is exactly what Trump stopped and started to stop when he first went into office. But the freak out against tariffs, I don't get it. Democrats always talk about, Bernie Sanders, raise minimum wage, this and that, but it's all a fluff. They don't know what that means. People just hear more money. So people hear like, oh, we're going to charge other people more to give us goods. And so the automatic assumption is everything's going to become more expensive, but they're not looking below the surface as to what that actually does and how it actually helps. And we'll get into the modern news here, but I think people who are not soft-brained can see the reality of what this means, and it's all good things. It's not bad.
And we start to see it. We start to see it pretty quick. I mean, pop that deal up there with old Justin Trudeau, the son of Fidel Castro.
Well, can I add something to this before we get off of this? Because I think there's I think there's an important point on this too. I just got back from spending 2 months in the little socialist republic of California, and anytime you go into like a McDonald's or a Taco Bell or anything in LA, there's these kiosks now because the minimum wage is $17 an hour, and there's just some jobs you don't pay somebody $17 an hour before. And I think the thing we're losing sight of, people are talking about, minimum wage needs to be a living wage. And if you're saying that, you don't understand the purpose of it. These used to be jobs for people in high school, teenagers. They weren't jobs for people providing for families. If you're going to get a job like that, you either go out and get a career of some sort, or you get a trade or something like that. The purpose of these jobs weren't to provide for a family. And if you are, I hate to be rude, but you need to start, building some other skills, man.
Yeah, you need an upward growth spiral for your career. And you know what else those kiosks don't do is they don't talk over you while you're still trying to place your order.
Dude, they're so much more convenient because I can actually get everything I actually want on my meal and somebody doesn't get it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
the robots are taking over, man.
I'm trying to add
taking
McNuggets. I'm trying to add a 10-piece McNugget to my meal, and they won't be quiet. And I saw a meme the other day that said, "You know what? I want to order a shut the McF up," and I was like, "Cause stop talking." But yeah, I get your point. Jokes aside, I've seen that too, specifically in California. I've also seen it in Europe. Quite extensively. I've always said wherever Europe is, I used to say back in the early 90s, I'd go to Europe and I would say, well, whatever's happening in Europe, you give it 15 years, it's going to be happening in America. Now it's literally months to 12 months to a year. And what's happening in Europe tends to show up and manifest here in the States as well, particularly the places like California. I don't know why. Good people in California, good people, good conservatives in California, they're screwed by bureaucracy. It's amazing that people continue to live, but they do. And you know what? It's true in Washington. It's true in Oregon. Good people in all those places. I give them a hard time. People get mad at me. And I understand why they stay and fight. But, man, you talk about an almost losing battle. Now, Trudeau comes out. And literally within 12 hours of this announcement, he gives old Trump a telephone call and says, "Oh, wait, we want to work together. We want to make something happen here." Do we have that clip? Do we have the clip of that, Royce? Of
Yeah, I have that. I have that up right now.
okay,
Of him coming out.
Yeah, of him coming out and he makes the statement. Do you have that? Let's play that clip real quick if we've got it. There he is. Look at this fancy pants.
Bonjour tout le monde. I had a good call with Donald Trump last night again. We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call. This is something that we can do. Laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do. One of the really important things is that we be all pulling together on this. The Team Canada approach is what works. That's where, putting aside partisanship, that's where I reached out immediately to Doug Ford to agree with him that we would have a First Ministers meeting this week to talk about the United States. Talked with François Legault and some other premiers as well. There's work to do, but we know how to do it. J'ai eu un bon appel avec Donald Trump hier soir pour rappeler certains faits et parler de...
I guess French.
Yeah, he's got to go into Parlez-vous français. The thing about that is, so you have, a great example of a guy who loves socialism, and then the ultimate capitalist in Donald Trump, and they're going to get on a phone call together. So it pains Justin Trudeau to have a conversation and basically bow down to a guy who was literally Hitler, and says, "I think we can make this work." Yeah, you are going to make this work because I've got a feeling that you're not going to have a choice. Eric Doherty said, 12-hour aftermath of Trump threatening 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Justin Trudeau is going to call Trump on the phone to discuss the border security, and then Mexico is going to halt the migrant caravans. Do you think this thing lasts, Jeremy?
Here's the thing I think is funny is, first of all, did it seem to you like he suddenly had like an Irish accent in the beginning of that? Like
He does that
it was suddenly not Canadian. He suddenly sounded Irish. So here's the thing I think we're gonna see. I don't know how hard Trump is gonna push tariffs with these guys. What I do think he's doing is he's trying to get them to actually respect borders. So I think what you're going to see is borders from Canada, which that's the one people aren't talking about, and there's people coming across that border too. But I think you're going to see the Canadian and the Mexican borders get stronger here. I do think you're going to see kind of more tariffs on countries outside of America. Like I expect them with China. I expect them in other places. I don't know that you're going to see them as much in places like Canada. I think it's more of a bargaining chip right now. I think it's Trump trying to see if he can get these guys to behave because they're really, at the moment, neither Mexico or Canada are respecting American borders, and they're just kind of like letting everybody in. So I think, to me, I'm interested to see where this goes. But I do think this will mean, better pricing for American products being sold in Canada. I do think it'll be a better trade for a lot of petroleum products, which are coming, some through Alaska and some through Canada and whatever. I think you're going to see the pipelines resume, because I know there were some pipelines that were canceled through that way. So I think these are the kind of the bargaining chips that it's okay to let it happen if we're, allowing the tariffs to not happen.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I agree with you on that. I think there's going to be some interesting things that are going to happen that are going to be very beneficial. But you're right. Ultimately, it's not so much about the economy as it is about securing the border.
Correct.
And people don't talk about. There's a funny YouTube video out there of this comedian who does a sketch about being on the American Canadian Border Patrol, and he's the only one. He's the only agent, and he says, "I just run really fast, just patrol the entire border." He's the only one, and I think people are going to ridicule this, sort of like Trump saying Mexico is going to pay to build the wall, and they use that as a joke for a long time. Royce, what do you think on that? I mean, do you think that this is? I think this is a piece of the puzzle. It's not the entire deal, but like everybody, they're going to make this some major big piece of the pie, and I think this is a tactic. I think this is Trump using a strategic tactic to get the overall picture done. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Like I said before, it's a scare tactic, right? It's something if you listen to Trudeau there, he sounded somewhat exhausted and tired and scared even. He's breathing heavy. He's like, just got a phone call with Donald Trump. That was intense, right? So they're feeling the pressure. It's true. They're feeling the pressure that Trump is on his way. They were caught with their hands in the cookie jar, and Daddy is coming home, and they're trying to scramble to get things back together. We could talk about the whole DEI stuff in the U.S. that's being shut down. All these DEI stuff is being dismantled with Walmart and Starbucks, all these programs that they had. They're shutting them down. Why? Because Trump is coming back, and he's not going to allow this kind of stuff to control or dictate who gets to do what in America or who's coming through our border. That's why he's doing this stuff with Canada and Mexico. And like you said, Jeremy, I expect it to happen with places like China. Like, they are going to receive tariffs, and they are going to comply. In my opinion, it's going to work.
I think one of my favorite things about this too, my wife has said this a number of years ago, but Tim Pool had made this comment, and she always reminds me of it, that Trump's kind of like because Tim loves poker. So he's talking about Trump's kind of like a very inexperienced poker player that you have no idea what he's going to do. So you're always kind of terrified of what he could do. And I think that's the thing that's always interesting, is nobody knows, like, Trump talks a big game and he could actually do it. And I think that's what terrifies a lot of these guys, because he doesn't have the niceties and a lot of these things that these guys are typically used to. He threatens big, and he could go big. And so because of that, they have to kind of capitulate in a lot of ways.
I was just at Tim Pool's place, his newer studio there. They've built this incredible place. Tim's always got these new compounds out in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia. And he's got this big poker table in there, and I was sitting there thinking, I can't imagine playing poker with somebody like Tim Pool, who is so far on the spectrum that I would never know what angle he's coming at. Playing stupid, because I was a stupid player as a poker player. I know a lot of professional poker players, and they joke about with me, I won a lot because people didn't know if I was smart or not. I just knew how to play stupid. And there's an element that I've said this, people get mad at me for saying this, but Trump, he's not always the brightest guy in all scenarios, okay? He's not. What he is good at is the sale. He's good at the deal, and he knows how to win the room over, even if some of the other complexities of the deal he may not know off the top of his head. Don't ask him what his favorite Bible verse is. Like that gets a little comedic right there. So I don't know if he's going to put tariffs on the Bibles that are coming out of China. I don't even know if the Trump Bibles are made in China. I don't know. But
how does China do with printing those, by the way? Because doesn't no one have any religion in China? That's the
illegal.
Beatles song.
It's illegal. I know a lot of people who have smuggled Bibles into China, so I don't know if Trump's getting his Bibles out of China. I say that as a joke simply because there are people on X who have been saying that as an attempt to troll Trump, and who knows? I've never investigated the printing factory of where the Trump Bibles come from. I mean, you get a Trump Bible, you can get Trump socks, Trump ties, which are actually pretty good
Trump
ties.
watches.
You can get Trump watches. You can get Trump fragrances now. They're amazing.
Somebody got me Trump wine for Thanksgiving. It was actually pretty good.
I mean, they got the Trump wine.
Trump fragrance. They should call it Trump Musk. Right?
Oh, that's great. I like it.
The Trump Musk.
It's absolutely tremendous. It's the best Musk ever.
The commercial
Elon loves it.
Is so funny because you'll be listening to, and every now and then I'm like, is this the real world we're living in? You'll hear Trump. He's like, it's your favorite president. I want to talk to you about Trump fragrances. It'll make you smell good too. And he says that, and he says, gonna make him smell good too. And I'm like, that's the whole point, is to make you smell good. So,
do you remember in Anchorman when they had the Sex Panther made with bits of real Panther? Yeah. Trump Musk made with bits of real Trump.
Yeah, guaranteed to work 100% of the time, 60% of the time. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm like, is this the real world? And those Trump watches aren't cheap. I mean, you know, for a little knockoff watch, those things start at like $500 and go up to like $10,000 or something like that.
They're cool though. Some of them have his face on it with a fist, you know.
I mean, I'm a watch guy. They call that a horophile. A horophile is a person who loves watches. Forget
horrifying.
The Rolex. Yeah,
really?
I know. I'm gonna throw this thing out and get me a Trump watch. But you know, we'll see how the tariff things go. I just like the fact that Trump gets a response. You know, he gets a response from these world leaders. He makes things happen. We've seen it before, and anybody that chooses to not see that, you just simply have your head buried in the sand.
Well, I think to that too, like and this is something I've been talking about for a while. If you're going to fix currency, which is something that has to get handled, there has to be industry here, because industry used to be what the backbone of America was built off of, and it's not anymore. And if you even want to go back to looking what happened in the late Roman Empire, you know, one of the main reasons that the West falls and the East survives is the East handles its currency, which is one of the things they don't talk about with Constantine. Is in the year 314 in a city called Trier in Germany, he mints less than 100 gold coins, and he'll continue to do that every year until he dies in the 330s. So by the time he dies, they're on a totally gold standard, and that's going to go without inflation until about the year 1000. But now one of the important parts about that is he makes that the standardized currency. So he forces people to actually trade in that currency, which wasn't happening with previous currencies in the Roman Empire. And because of that, you have that then be in circulation. So you have a standard currency. And I think that's one of the things you have to look at here is we have to have an economy where things are actually traded, made, and built here, and a good currency, or we're screwed.
Yeah, and you referred to the BRIC situation earlier, which is dangerous and deadly because it devalues and decentralizes the dollar. You know, within 72 hours of Trump's election, Putin was already saying that he would use the U.S. dollar. They would do that, you know, to buy oil, buy fuel, you know, would trade with the dollar. That's a huge thing. You know, Jeremy, one of the things you taught me was, and it makes so much sense, is how, you know, currency in the Roman Empire, in a lot of ways, it was also the media. Like, it reminded you who was in charge because it had the emperor's face on it, and so it was sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Not so much the media as it was the
propaganda. Because, and it's interesting too, because you could tell how weak an emperor was by who he tried to position himself with. So if you see, you know, Augustus is considered to be the founder of the Roman Empire, you know, when it transitions from republic. So he's a classic character. You have the first king of Rome, which is Romulus. So if that emperor tries to put Romulus on one side or puts Augustus on the other side, you know, that emperor isn't that strong. You look at the final emperor, his name was Romulus Augustus. So they were kind of like really reaching at the end for what was left. He's so good, even though he's a kid, he's got both of their names. But it was really interesting because coins are something, you have to understand the purpose of them in the Roman Empire, is the main purpose of a coin was to pay the military. So they want the military to see how they're getting paid and who's getting and paying them and how strong that person was. And what had happened in the 3rd century is these military commanders start making themselves emperor by force. So you have to just understand the purpose of currency.
Yeah. And so, me personally, I want a strong dollar. I want a strong dollar because it reminds the world that, hey, America is strong. And it should be something that fortifies literally everything we have our hands in, from our military to our identity and on down the line. Royce, what were you going to say a minute ago?
I wanted to ask Jeremy's thought on crypto. I'm not a big crypto guy. I'm not into crypto, but it's definitely being talked about a lot with things like Doge and Bitcoin. And you talk a lot about the importance of currency and how it relates to what's happening now and what happened in the Roman Empire. So how do you think that could come into play here?
Man, I'm like the worst person to ask about this because I kind of go back to the what is it, Shigetoshi, whatever his name is, the guy that created Bitcoin. It's like, number one, we don't know who he is. We don't know how it happened. So let's all throw our money into it. I don't know, man. Like it just doesn't sound like a great idea to me. And here's the thing too, is like, let's think about it. If somebody wanted to suppress you in some way, wouldn't it be great if they could just shut your money off or decide what you could use it or not use it on? So I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to hate me. They're not going to be excited about it.
But it's worth having that conversation.
I really don't like that, man. That scares the heck out of me.
It's worth having that conversation, Jeremy, and I'm glad you bring it up because, I mean, like, okay, one of my biggest things that I push back, well, there's several things, but one of the big things about electric cars is I'm giving someone the power to just turn off my automobile.
And and by the way, you have Thomas Massey and AOC, believe it or not, that came together and stopped Congress from passing a bill to put a shutoff in all of your automobiles.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't want to go out
That
like
is
Anne
wild.
Heche, where somebody just takes over my car and I'm doing 70 miles an hour into a house somewhere. And
Chad, you are going too fast. We are going to jail.
yeah, it's I don't want a car that
Warning,
can
you're
drive
going
me
to
to
jail.
jail. I do not want a car. Like I was messing with Sarah Gonzalez yesterday, and I took a picture of the Cyber Beast. I think those
They're ugly.
The Tesla truck is the ugliest thing out there. And so I pulled up the website. I was like, how much does this stupid thing cost? $100,000. And, you know, where I live around here, these people are driving them like there's some kind of status symbol. And I'm like, there's nothing about that. I know he basically wanted to build a Mars rover that you could drive around Earth. It's ugly. I like my automobile to be my mobile identity. I've got a dented up, scratched up, busted up truck. That is me, okay?
Yeah.
And that is what I drive. It's got 200,000 miles on it. I'm going to drive it till it's got at least 500. And, like, that's just me. But I sent a picture to Sarah Gonzalez, and Sarah sent it back. She said, "Don't you dare."
Do you remember that Family Guy episode way back where Peter's concerned about the size of his Peter, and he gets the car that's like way too long, remember? And then they're looking at bananas and Lois picks up the plantains and she's like, "But some people like plantains." It's kind of like that. I just don't. It's a look at me vehicle. Like, you know what I mean? It feels like just like a compensation of some sort.
And when you look at it, what are you looking at? I mean, what are you looking at?
I'm gonna let me chime in here really quick because I'm a big technology guy, so I do think the Cybertrucks are kind of cool. I don't think they look the best, but on the technology side of things, they got that four wheel turning where all four wheels turn, all these different things. I think they're spectacular in that sense. I don't think I'd drive one because it looks
in that
weird.
regard. And big shout out to my buddy Kevin Wade over in my longtime friend K Dub. He's got a Tesla car. He's a retired pilot, and he's an MIT grad. He was a fighter jet pilot. I mean, he knows how to twist knobs and push buttons and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there. He's got a Tesla, and the fascinating thing to me is what all they can do. Like that's cool. The technology of it is cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't want to have. I don't want to have to replace a $25,000 battery or charge the damn thing up. I don't want to have to do any of that stuff.
Get me a late
changes.
Yeah.
Get me a late 90s. Get me a late 90s straight 8 Grand Cherokee on a Skyjacker kit on 42s, and I'm a happy guy, man.
There you go. And everybody knows, and I'm working on a fuel pump on it right now, or on a fuel line on it right now. But my 96 British Land Rover, nobody can steal it because the steering wheel's on the wrong side of the car. And it's a manual transmission, and there's nobody out there, much less can drive a manual transmission, but they definitely can't do it with their left hand. But that's my tractor. There's not a single computer on the thing, and I love that sucker. Anyway, let's move over to this Axios story. This guy, like, I didn't even know this guy existed, and we got. Let me check the time over here, make sure we're still good. We're okay for a minute. Move over to that thing there. This is the guy who we were just showing yesterday, who was basically saying X is not the media, and it's hard to be a journalist. It takes a lot of work to be a journalist. And these people that are on X that can, tweet out 380 characters, they're supposedly reporters. Nobody's saying they're reporters. But this guy, he's kind of changing his tune now. Let's pop over on that clip. This is from Mario Nofal. This is his tweet. And let's pop that sucker up. And this is a long clip, so we'll just play a minute of it and see if this guy's changed his tune a little bit. Let her rip.
Always been sort of the leading edge of where media is going with Politico, now with Axios. You understand the environment so well. How do Democrats, and frankly, how does legacy media need to change the way it thinks about getting information? I mean, a lot of the voters who went out and voted for Donald Trump, that so many people are wondering what happened here, they're not watching, frankly, this show. They're not reading the New York Times. They're not consuming media that way. And the Trump campaign found those voters where they live. So how do Democrats need to change the way they communicate to voters, if you think that's part of the problem?
For sure. I mean, I think all of us have to come to grips with legacy media.
Let me interpret that for you. Before we go any further with this talking head, let me interpret what he just said. How do Democrats brainwash the listeners more effectively now that nobody's watching our crap? That's what he's saying. Not how do we get the message out there. How do we continue to brainwash people when we can't get to them using these old traditional means? All right, let's play the clip.
It's just not as important as it thinks it is. It is to you, it is to me. That's a relatively small group of people who rely on us for their information. And you have to go into the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. And basically, the way people get information has shattered into 20, 30 different pieces. And so if you just look empirically at the numbers, Joe Rogan's more important than any of us. He just has a much bigger, hyper-connected audience that listens to his every word. So maybe listen to Joe Rogan and kind of understand, like, what is he talking about? What are the guests that he has on? What are the issues that they care about? Realize that the gravity of right-wing discourse is now taking place on X. It's not Fox. X is what matters. Elon Musk is now, I wrote about this yesterday, arguably the most powerful civilian in the history of the country. He controls information flow. He controls multiple businesses. He has the president's ear. He's going to be in charge of some newfangled organization to gut government spending. We've not seen a person with that kind of clout across those sectors. But where his real power comes from is X. People thought he was an idiot when he bought X because he lost a lot of money. He's got a lot of money. And now he happens to have the most powerful platform on the right, and politics is downstream from information. And there's just a whole new information ecosystem out there. So for us, for you, for Democrats, for Republicans, you have to understand that you now are going to have to basically navigate 20 or 30 different parts of the ecosystem if you want to connect with the American people who vote.
Look at that panel of ignorance that they post up there at the end with Joe and Meek and the whole crowd. I like, look at these guys. Oh, my Lord.
That was definitely a moment of honesty from that guy.
It's a moment of honesty. There's a number of things that in a long, boring dialogue or monologue, I would like to unpack what he actually said to everybody. Not that everybody can't think for themselves, they can, but just what I hear. I'm just telling you, if you took that grouping of heads right there that are on that panel and put them all together, put those heads together, it would sound like a bowling alley. But I appreciate the honesty that he puts out right there, because when he says, when he talks about the information, what he's talking about is the propaganda. He's talking about the narrative. See, that's the difference between the legacy media and a Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is a real person. Joe Rogan's comfortable in his own skin. I've heard Joe Rogan say over and over again, I don't care about dead air. I remember one time Luke Combs was on the show and he was looking up a deer he killed, and he goes, man, I know we're not supposed to have dead air. He goes, I don't give a shit about dead air. Just whatever. I mean, this is our show. This is real life. Life has dead air in it. Let's do this. Let's put it this way. Donald Trump is arguably the most famous person that's ever lived in human history. Joe Rogan is bigger than Oprah ever dreamed of being in terms of his reach and his voice. Elon Musk is I said it yesterday, he's the Leonardo da Vinci of our time. I mean, he's got a blueprint for just about everything out there. He knows how to pull the resources, pull the minds together, and get things done. The legacy media simply can't keep up with that type of thing. The interview that Donald Trump did with Joe Rogan is arguably the biggest interview that's ever happened in the history of any form of media. And I'm talking in superlatives and maybe some hyperbole here, but I want to get your take. Jeremy, what do you think?
Well, there's a couple different angles we could go on this. I think first of all, I don't think that any of us realize how grateful we should be to an MTV VJ for the 80s for our ability to talk freely. And that's the podfather himself, Adam Curry, that invented podcasting.
He's a good friend.
He invented podcasting back in 2004.
And let me add to it, a guy with Tourette's.
Yeah.
A guy with Tourette's. Adam has Tourette's. So you know what? Go get him.
But I think the thing, so I've been in this podcast world since 2014, and I think the thing that's kind of beautiful about it is it's regular people communicating. That's the number one reason I've dedicated to my life to what I do, either having a podcast or helping other people with them. And there's a really great book, I think it was done in like 2020 or 2021 by Batya Ungar-Sargon. If you haven't got a chance to have her on the show, you definitely should.
Of course.
And it's called Breaking the News. And I think the thing you're seeing here, let's go back to where news used to be, right? Oh, I see an In the Morning in the chat. In the Morning out there. I'm a big No Agenda listener, which is Adam's podcast. But anyway, if you look at where news came from, it used to be people that were following a story. They may or may not have had a college education. They may have dropped out of school. These are people just trying to get to the result of a story. And the thing that Batya brings up is they've become class traders in a lot of ways, because now your news is they went to Harvard or they went to Yale, they went to this. They have no connection with regular people, right? So they don't care about the things you care about. They don't know about the things you know about. And what we're seeing with podcasting and new media and things like Joe Rogan and this show, we're regular people, man. We're not sugarcoating anything. We're trying to explain, sure, I have a degree in history, but I'm trying to make it make sense to regular people. And I think that's what's really cool about this is we're talking about life from experience to things people actually care about. And it's very hard to get censored in a world like this, thanks to Rumble and other things like this and to what Musk is doing on X. So we've reached this point to we don't need a media that's not talking about the things we care about anymore. And if you even look at the direction the consumer's going, Chad, they're either watching Netflix, which means they decide what they're going to watch or what they're not going to watch.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing on Prime or on podcasts or whatever it may be. Legacy media is having a hard time dealing with, you turn on channel 4 at 5 o'clock and you watch whatever's on. That's not how it works anymore. They get to choose whether they watch you or don't watch you. And that's kind of the world we're going into now.
Yeah. And Royce, you and I were talking about before before the show started, we were talking about binge watching certain shows. We live in a streaming age where I can wait for Tulsa King to come out with the entire season, and then I can watch every episode. I don't have to. I don't have to deal with the cliffhanger, right? The legacy media, they got to come up with something to tell you 24 hours a day. They've got it. Mainstream's got to come up with something 7 days a week. I said this back in the 80s, early 80s. Well, not early 80s. I was a real small kid, but I can remember as a teenager saying that, when they came out with CNN, they're going to have to start making up stories just to keep the viewer. And because, again, people don't want the cliffhanger. They want to know what's going to happen next. And so rather than give you the answers, they just kept instilling more and more fear in us. I like this idea. I'm as a person who is deeply devoted to podcasting. And like I say to people all the time, people say, what do you do for a living? I say, well, I'm a stand-up comedian, jackleg musician, but I'm a podcaster. And people go, oh, well, maybe that'll work out for you someday. And I'm like, you guys have no idea the power that these shows actually wield. I mean, they really are. This is a podcast presidency. This election is a podcast presidency. Tim Pool has said it over and over again. I've said it over and over again. Tim Pool at any given time is going to have 63 to 70,000 people in his live chat on any given night. I'm sorry, Brian Stelter doesn't have that. Royce, aren't you glad we're in this industry doing what we're doing? I mean, maybe we have a future here.
I'm extremely glad that we're in the industry of internet podcasting, because that really is where the future is. And Trump's team saw that for what it was, and that's why they were a podcast campaign where that's all Trump did. He was tired of going on CNN and MSNBC and giving them chances and trying to reach the other side through those funnels, because they just weren't working. They weren't working.
Well, Royce, I want to add one thing to that, Royce, too, because and these stories have come out very recently, and they're FCC violations, by the way, and I haven't heard anybody say anything about this, because you have to when you take money for an interview or whatever it might be, it becomes a paid placement. You have to disclose that. Yeah. But anyway, Kamala paid 6 figures to go and call her daddy. She paid it was like $2 million for Oprah to talk to her. So people didn't even want to talk to this person. Like Trump just kind of like people were demanding Trump come on their shows. And I think that's what's really interesting is this campaign became a cultural moment. And I think that's also the very interesting part of it too.
And she also paid.
No, go ahead, Royce.
She also paid, millions to have Megan Thee Stallion come twerk at one of her rallies. I'll say though, legacy media has always been important to America. Journalism has always been very important to America. But I think the legs were broken on it back in 2020 with COVID. Because like you said, Chad, if legacy media can't find stories, they're going to start making stuff up to keep the money flowing. Our government does the same thing. If they can't, they're going to come up with crises to keep control of the people. And 2020, I think, blew it all apart. In 2020, with COVID and the breakout of all that, it was lie after lie, fear-mongering after fear-mongering, coming up with all these different things. The government trying to keep control of the people, legacy media trying to create fear and content so they would come back and watch. It was all just a giant lie fest, and people were looking to alternatives to get the real truth, and that's where they found people like Joe Rogan and people like us and alike.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting on somebody to come out and say, well, apparently it wasn't an epidemic of, a crisis of the unvaccinated in a cold, dark winter and all these things that they told us. From the president on down. And by the way, Tim yeah, please go ahead.
Well, no, I think one important point to make here, guys, as well is you look at your standard media piece. Do you get 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it might be? Any of these issues take 30 minutes, an hour, on a Rogan episode, 3 hours. And I think that's also the problem we're seeing as well, is the issues we need to talk about and handle in our lives aren't handled in a 3-minute puff piece put on a media channel.
I was driving through Dallas the other morning, and I drove past the building where I would go in, because I was on Fox and Friends pretty much every week, and I would have to get up at 3:30 in the morning. And drive over to Dallas and get there in time to do my hit. So I would, my day started at 3 a.m. to get over to do Fox and Friends, to do my stream into the studios in New York. And I was on for maybe 3 minutes. To get all that stuff in, that's a quick deal. So, there's no way you're not expounding on anything. Well, then we got to go to the next guest. I hate that. I'm on OAN or Newsmax or you name your network right now, and I'm still on for just a few minutes, and there's no way that you can really break down any issue or topic that you're doing. So it's a soundbite deal. Everything is about reels. With this, we can actually have a conversation. We can interrupt each other. We can have fun with it. We can talk about any nonsensical thing out there. But at the end of the day, this is a real conversation. And so these guys they don't have the format to do that, much less the mindset. When I went to the University of Georgia, I went with the idea of being a part of their broadcast journalism school, and I saw through that really, really quick of what they were doing. They were creating puppets. They were creating parrots. They were creating talking heads. And I didn't want to do that. I've always wanted to be a little more of a free thinker. I got too much preacher in me, I guess, and I want to expound on things. And so, I think this is not only the future. Listen, it is amazing to me that Kamala Harris, you talk about the equal FCC thing. Kamala Harris had the same invitation as Donald Trump did to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. And now Tim Pool and I were talking about this on his show 2 weeks ago, that it was her staff. Her staff was the one. Well, at least they're putting it on the staff. I don't think Kamala wanted to go have a 3-hour conversation because she can't.
You can't.
But it was her staff who says, no, we don't feel comfortable doing that. So literally it was over their, emotional little whatever menstrual cycle, feelings got hurt deal that they didn't want to go on Joe Rogan because it might be a triggering experience. Well, you're going to continue to lose out because you're not willing to go have – because, again, if you're willing – if the only thing you're going to do is you got a paid-for interview with Oprah, or you have a you're on with Dana Bash, or you're on with Stephanie Rule. In the Dana Bash interview, she had Tim Walz helping carry the thing.
Safety blanket.
I mean, it's ridiculous. You're going to go do this stuff. And then Trump is like, you're a very ugly person. You're an ugly person. I love that when he's, doing these interviews. I don't know why you got to be so ugly. You got to be an ugly person. You're an ugly person. So again, that stuff is dead. And we have Donald Trump in many ways to thank for that, of bringing this whole phenomena of the fake news and making people really realize that there is a thing called fake news. Every rally I've ever been to, he's like, look at them back there. They're back there, all the fake news. They're going to tell us lies. They're going to tell lies. I loved all that. And so we're living in a whole new world, guys. The Roman Empire is a whole new place these days.
My favorite clip, by the way, Chad, and I don't know if you've seen this one, is J.D. Vance about 2 weeks ago is talking about his favorite moment in the campaign. And they're on, I think it was Air Force Two or something, and his kid walks into the back and tells the media they're fake news. 15 minutes later, his dog goes out and just takes a crap right in front of the media as well. He's like, this was by far the best moment of the campaign.
Nothing like
That's
an Ohio
incredible.
hillbilly to have their dog take a dump in front of the media. And these people are they piss me off because they're so pompous, they're so condescending, they're so arrogant, they're so better than you, they're so elitist. They think that what they say goes. They can do no wrong. I mean, watching these man on the street interviews with Don Lemon going out there and trying to figure out why people are saying they're going to vote for Donald Trump. And it's like these people just simply don't get it. They don't get it. They've lived in an ivory tower, and I'm happy to watch the downfall. And I think it's going to be fantastic to continue to watch this downward spiral trend. But don't worry. They're fighting back. I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, but the left, they're fighting back, and they've got their moments where they say, "I'm going to show you." Not the least of which is our good buddy, fellow billionaire Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, he decided that, you know what? I'm going to unfollow Elon Musk on X. I'm just, ooh,
Got him.
Whoa, what a sick burn, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Here's what I think would be funny is Elon Musk owns X, right? If he went in there and just changed it back. So he just got rid of the unfollow and made him follow him again. And then
Well, I think the joke's on him. He looks like an aged Rachel Maddow.
Oh, he looks bad, right? I don't know why these guys think.
Lesbian Mark Cuban, man.
These guys really do. I don't know if they're putting the plastic in their face or the Botox, but they add the glasses, and it's just the hair is always a little too big for their age or too full or something like that. And it's like, wow, the estrogen is strong with this one.
Well, now I can't tell. I can't tell if Rachel Maddow is becoming more masculine or Mark Cuban is becoming more feminine.
The answer is
because
yes.
they're both starting. Yeah, the answer is yes, because they're both starting to look like each other, and we say the opposite thing about both. It's pretty bizarre.
They're reaching critical mass, and they're gonna merge.
Yes, there'll be a giant explosion here soon of just the Mark Maddow.
It is a sociological phenomenon that you tend to, people have been married a long time. They start to sort of look alike. They think alike. They finish each other's sentences. They always say, you're going to make within 20% of the top 5 people you spend the most time around. And I think these people have been in this echo chamber for so long that they really do begin to resemble one another, and it's not good. I mean, and that's not a good look with those AirPods in his ear, whatever they
Look
are.
like earrings.
They look like earrings,
yeah,
which adds a little bit to the feminization of this guy. And
what's even worse though is those glasses are a choice. He made that choice to wear those glasses. He's doing it to himself. This is not like he's just getting older and starting to look feminine. No, he chose to wear those glasses, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Why are they? Look at the bridge on the nose. Why is it so thick?
Yeah, easy, Gilbert.
I guess he's getting ready for Thanksgiving. He looks like the kid from A Christmas Story.
He does.
That's why I keep my glasses on. I keep them right here. They don't even have any lenses in them.
He's going to be glued to TBS all day watching this thing.
Yeah. Goodbye, Yellow Brick Road. He's got a little Elton John going on. I see Slaughterhound made that comment there in the live chat. Oh my gosh! But yeah, they're going to show you. I saw where Rob Reiner checked himself into a little rest area. not rest area, but a rest home or whatever, to get away from all of the vitriol and the hate. And these people have lived in a bubble for just too long, too long. Jeremy, give us a parting thought before you got to go, man. What's the future look like for all of us? Let me get my gay glasses off.
Well,
How do we what can we learn from the Roman Empire? You give me a final thought. I don't know. Give me something that you're thinking about. Let's bring this thing together and draw it up into a nice little bow.
Well, I think we're in a really interesting point in history right now where I think we've had a way to communicate like we've never had before. And you have to look at other points in history. The Roman Empire decided who got to speak and who didn't get to speak. Even looking, the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages is very similar. We're in the ability to actually communicate and have bigger thoughts and ideas. And I think if we embrace this single moment in time that we have right now, the direction we're headed can be amazing. But I think it is about continuing to embrace free speech, continuing to have better conversations, and continuing to get to better ideas. That's the place we need to be at.
Yeah. Jeremy, I appreciate you, brother. I really do. Make sure you're following him at Jeremy. Is it at Jeremy Ryan? No, you got a couple of different deals.
I'm at Jeremy Ryan Slate because my parents named me after a cowboy actor named Jeremy Slate.
There you go. My parents named me after a former action star, Chad Everett. So that's where the Chad came from. So I know that feeling. But make sure you're following him, and his reels are phenomenal. I mean, the clips from his shows are phenomenal. You guys throw a lot of stuff in there. It's very entertaining to watch, and you make that part of history very interesting. As you alluded to earlier, Jeremy, you do a fantastic job of bringing it down to the point where we can chew on it a little bit. And you humanize it, and I think that's what we have to do with history, right? These are people just like us, and they just lived in a different time, and we interpret them in light of the time in which they lived. And you do a great job of that. So, brother, I appreciate your insight. We're going to do this thing again soon. I know you got to get on to the next little deal. So if you got to jump off, do that. But Royce, man, we got to bump up that Twitter. Got to bump up that X following for you.
Got to get it higher, man. I promise I'll keep posting. Just give me a follow and I'll be there.
I wish all my folks that were on Facebook or whatever would just bite the bullet and say, we're going to go join X. Stop being so rebellious, dadgummit. Support free speech. That's what Elon's trying to do. I mean, if it was worth $40 billion to him, you can start a free account and get on X. Just pick a real name. Don't be like 84763894210. Like, don't be that person. Okay. Don't bot it.
You already have a name. Just use your name. It's not that. Use your name. Shouldn't be difficult.
Use your name. Anyway, cool stuff. Guys, I appreciate you. Royce, give me the screen real quick. I'm going to get us out of here.
Yes, sir.
And listen, guys, I want all of you to go to where podcasts are offered. Some of you are already there because you're listening to the show. I want you to leave a 5-star rating and a review. And I want you to, if you're watching the show on Rumble or YouTube, I want you, maybe leave a comment. You can leave a comment, but definitely hit the button, a little thumbs up button. And if you're not getting the notifications, well, you need to hit that little notification bell and just tell them. Just keep ringing that bell, whether they're going to do it or not. Just keep ringing that little ding-dong. Hit that little bell. But subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on Rumble. We're trying to bump those numbers up, too. I've been in touch with the folks over at Rumble. They're fine folks, and we're trying to get a little more promotion going there to where we can get these numbers back to where they need to be. So far, so good. I love doing these live shows because this is one take. Everything I've ever done has always been in one take. But I like having you guys on with me while we're doing this. So it's a beautiful thing. Big shout out to Jeremy Ryan Slate. Big shout out to Royce, America's favorite producer. You can also catch him on Graham Allen's Dear America every morning. He's the producer over there as well. So get Graham's takes on those shows as well. WatchChad.com is where all the fun stuff is. You can do a little shopping over at PratherTees.com. And I'll just tell you, if you want my 1776 hoodie, you can't get it on my website. But if you go to 9 Line Apparel and you click on their partners, you'll find my ugly mug on there, and you'll be able to buy this sweatshirt. You can get it, 9 Line Apparel. Just do a little Google search for 9lineapparel.com, I think it is. But I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to jump out of here. We're at the hour, and I appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you tell your family and friends. And if I don't talk to you between now and then, I want you to have a great Thanksgiving. We got more content coming out between now and then, so just stay tuned. Stay tuned. Take care of yourselves. I'm praying for you every day. Tomorrow is day 52 of our daily prayers. I want you to join me in them. Say them out loud. Say them out loud, doggone it. And let's head into this Thanksgiving with a little bit of gratitude. I think we got a lot to be thankful for. In the meantime, I love you. God bless you. I'll talk to you next time.